In Star Wars, Shmi Skywalker is a slave on Tatooine, Anakin is found late, and the Jedi argue over him like he's a dangerous exception. But what if they never got that chance? What if Shmi Skywalker was already a Jedi when the Force created Anakin? In this version of the story, that's exactly what happens. And the moment the Order tries to contain it, the galaxy starts bending in a different direction. Let's begin. The Jedi Archives don't feel like a public room. They feel like a vault with manners. Stone that swallows echoes, light measured on purpose, holoshelves whispering with centuries of certainty the Order is comfortable admitting. Jocasta Nu moves through the aisles like she can hear which truths are fragile. At a table near the deep stacks, Shmi Skywalker sits with her hood down, hands resting on a data slate she isn't reading, eyes closed. She isn't studying, she's listening. Then something in the Force changes. No spectacle, just a sudden gravity, like the galaxy leaned closer. Jocasta stops beside her. "You've been here since dawn." Shmi doesn't open her eyes. Something shifted. Jocasta lowers her voice. "In the Force?" Shmi nods once. Like a door moved somewhere far away. Footsteps approach, steady, unhurried, unmistakably senior. Jedi Master Dooku steps into the light, still officially of the Order, still wearing the calm of a man who can cut through a room without raising his voice. He carries a tired patience these days, the kind you get when you keep watching the Senate decay and everyone keeps calling it normal. He stops at Shmi's table and doesn't pretend he's just passing through. "Skywalker." Shmi rises and bows. He returns it with exact precision, but his eyes linger, the way a former mentor looks at someone he helped shape and quietly wonders what the galaxy has demanded from them since. Jocasta says, "You've been tracking something." Shmi chooses her words carefully. "I can't name it, but it feels deliberate." Dooku's gaze flicks toward shelves the temple only consults when comfort fails. "Then don't chase it like a riddle. If the Force is moving, it won't slow down for your understanding." He turns away, pauses as if a warning is perched on the edge of his tongue, then decides it would only make her chase harder. And he's gone. What Shmi feels doesn't fade when he leaves. It stays through meditation, through meals she barely tastes, through sleep that never quite finishes closing around her. Then one morning in her quarters, she freezes mid-breath because her body delivers the truth before her mind can negotiate. She is pregnant. The temple's medical droids confirm it quickly. Healthy development, no illness, no toxins, no sign of physical tampering. Everything reads ordinary, except the one detail that makes the word ordinary meaningless. There is no father, no partner, no explanation that fits inside the code. The High Council meets her in a chamber built for calm faces and dangerous choices. The Masters sit in their arc. Mace Windu's voice stays level, but the air tightens anyway. "Explain." Shmi meets his gaze without blinking. "I kept the code. I took no partner. I did not choose this." Ki Adi Mundi goes straight to theory. Then it is an external influence. Yoda watches Shmi like he's listening behind her words. Or the will of the Force. Windu's jaw sets. A Jedi does not simply become an exception. Shmi keeps her voice steady because she can feel the panic behind their discipline. "I can't give you a moment to blame. I can only give you the truth. I didn't do this." Qui-Gon Jinn is present, not seated with them, but summoned because the Council knows he will say what they won't. He steps forward, calm in the way that makes powerful people uneasy. "The Force has never asked our permission. Treat this like disgrace and you'll turn it into one." The Council doesn't exile Shmi. That would be too clean. Instead, it surrounds her with procedure, check-ins that never stop, quiet watchers that never introduce themselves, concerns that repeat until they become a cage made of politeness. No one needs to shame her publicly. The constant attention does the work. Jocasta supports Shmi the only way Jocasta knows how, by unsealing old disputes and buried precedent the Order once hid when answers became inconvenient. Shmi reads at night, not to win a debate, but to understand what fear can make even wise people call necessary. When labor comes, it happens under clean temple light and the steady whir of droids. Masters wait outside the door, unsure what their titles mean when the Force stops being philosophy and becomes flesh. Then Anakin Skywalker arrives with a cry that feels too large for such a small body. The first assessment starts routine and ends in silence. A medical droid takes the midichlorian count and pauses, runs it again, checks its own calibration like it's begging reality to change. The number doesn't move. No one celebrates. The room simply understands this is not a child the Order can smooth over with gentle words and old comfort. By morning, the temple knows. Younglings whisper, "Chosen one," like a dare. Knights pass the nursery and glance toward the door like it's a chamber you don't touch without permission. The council visits Shmi as soon as she can stand. Windu's tone is formal, almost merciful in its distance. The boy will be trained. Shmi nods, exhausted but steady. Of course. Ki Adi Mundi doesn't soften. Attachment remains the danger. Shmi closes her fingers around Anakin's tiny hand and answers what they're really afraid to say. You're afraid love will break him. Yoda watches the child for a long moment. Great power, in him. Heavy attention it will bring. Windu delivers the true decision, the one beneath the doctrine. You will have access, but you will not be his only influence. The council will oversee his development. You will follow the code. Shmi hears the subtext clearly. This isn't only about Anakin. It's about what a Jedi mother implies, what it proves, what it invites. So she does the hardest thing she can do without feeding their suspicion. She lets the creche take him. Caretakers carry Anakin into the structured world of younglings, and Shmi doesn't chase them. She doesn't plead. She doesn't offer the council a dramatic moment they can later call evidence. She stands still until the door closes, then breathes like someone learning how to live inside rules that were never built for her life. Not long after, Yoda comes to her quarters himself. Tell you I must. Strange, the boy is. Shmi's heart locks. He's sick? Yoda's ears dip. No, early. Yoda explains it plainly. Anakin's connection is reflexive. When he cries, small objects drift. When he startles, the room stills, like the Force braces around him before he even understands what he's doing. Shmi doesn't fear power. She fears what adults will do with it. She can already see the pedestal being built, plank by plank, by people who think worship is the same as guidance. She goes to Windu. Don't make him untouchable. Windu studies her, like he's weighing whether she's protecting her son or protecting the Order from itself. We're guiding him. Then let him be corrected, Shmi says. Let him hear no while no is still safe. If you raise him above consequence, the galaxy will introduce consequence brutally. That lands because it is true in the way the Force is true. Not kind, not cruel, simply real. The temple changes where it matters, in routine. Anakin is challenged early, held to structure, never allowed to mistake attention for permission. He learns that strength without restraint is just danger wearing better robes. And inside that same rhythm, Shmi notices another youngling, small, green, quiet, watching from the edge, like he's learned that the safest place is the margin. The creche log calls him Grogu. On paper, he's the same age as the others. In presence, he feels older, like survival got to him early and taught him the art of being overlooked. He's easy to miss in a temple that pays attention to lightning. Shmi doesn't miss him. In a place obsessed with destiny, the quiet ones disappear first, not in death, but in neglect. Years pass. Anakin grows inside structure instead of indulgence. Instructors treat him like any other youngling until it becomes obvious the standard path can't hold him forever, not because he's special, but because the galaxy keeps trying to make him a symbol. Then Naboo happens, and the Sith return like a blade the galaxy pretended it buried. Qui-Gon goes, and Shmi feels it before anyone tells her. A pressure in the Force, a thread snapping. When the news comes, it doesn't arrive as a ceremony. It arrives as a fact the Order refuses to stare at for long because looking at it too hard would force them to admit how unprepared they still are. Qui-Gon Jinn is dead, killed by a warrior who moved like the dark side, learned how to smile. Not long after Qui-Gon falls, Dooku leaves the Order for good. The Jedi call it grief. Shmi can feel it's something sharper. Obi-Wan becomes a knight, and the Council makes the choice, but with a different tension humming underneath it. Obi-Wan takes Anakin as his Padawan. He's steady, disciplined, shaped by Qui-Gon's habit of listening without letting the Force become chaos. Windu doesn't take Anakin as an apprentice, but he becomes present in the way that matters most. Pressure training, decision training, restraint that doesn't depend on mood. In the training ring, Windu's voice is spare. Focus. Shmi's comes from the edge of the mat, calm as breath. Name what you feel. Don't let it steer you. Windu never offers Vaapad as a trick to borrow. He guards it because he knows what it costs, and because he can see how fast Anakin's strength could turn into hunger if the wrong lesson slips in at the wrong time. What Windu gives him instead is harder and cleaner, choices under stress. When Anakin finishes a drill breathing hard, Shmi doesn't soothe him. She asks for truth. What was it? Frustration? Why? Because I can feel what's coming, and I can't always get there fast enough. Shmi steps closer. Then patience is your strength, not because you're slow, because you're strong enough to break the wrong thing by accident. And then Dooku stops being a name people speak with nostalgia. He becomes a banner on the HoloNet, a voice for separatist fury, a man the Republic calls a traitor and the Outer Rim calls honest. Shmi feels it in her bones before anyone briefs her on politics. Dooku is too controlled to be serving chaos. If he's building a fire this large, someone has given him a reason, or someone has given him a leash, and he hates that he's wearing it. Shmi goes to see him once, alone, using a quiet back channel the temple keeps for sensitive mediation, recorded cleanly enough that no one can call it rogue and quiet enough that no one can weaponize it before she returns. They meet in a hall on Sereno that looks too beautiful to belong to a man who claims to be fighting corruption. Dooku dismisses his guards with a gesture. Shmi doesn't touch her saber. You shaped my training, Shmi says. You taught restraint like it was the line between a Jedi and a monster. So tell me what restraint looks like when you turn politics into an army. Dooku's smile is thin. The Republic is dying. The Jedi are used as a bandage for a wound that refuses to heal. And who is holding the knife? Shmi asks. For the first time, Dooku's calm flickers. Not fear. Recognition, like he heard her ask the same question years ago in the archives and hoped she would forget it. You came here hoping I'd confess, he says. I came here hoping you'd remember who you used to be. Dooku steps closer, voice lowered like he's offering mercy. There is a current moving beneath the Republic, a hand you cannot see. You and the Council are late. That is the truth. Give me a name, Shmi says. Dooku's gaze hardens. If I give you that, they will kill you. They, Shmi repeats. He hears himself say it and realizes what slipped out. The mistake is small, but Shmi hears it the way a Jedi hears a charge pack click in a silent corridor. Before he can recover, she presses once more, careful and lethal. I felt the Force lean before Anakin was born. You were in the archives that week. You warned me without warning me. Why? Dooku's face goes still. Because I knew the Order would try to cage a miracle. Because I knew you would survive it. He turns away and Shmi understands the worst shape of the truth. Dooku didn't wander into darkness by accident. He moved closer to it on purpose, because something dark already had influence, and he wanted his hands on the wheel when the Republic finally swerved. Shmi returns to Coruscant with something she didn't have before. Dooku's habits in her head, his fingerprints in her memory. So when Kamino turns up missing from the archives, Shmi doesn't treat it like a mystery. She treats it like a breach. She checks deletion protocols, access history, the tiny patterns in a wipe that most people would call clean. And there it is, a telltale shape in the absence. The kind of signature you only notice if you once trained under the man who would think to hide it that way. Obi-Wan still follows his trail and finds Kamino the way the story needs him to, because some discoveries are too big to belong to one person. But when he reports back, Shmi isn't surprised. The cold in her expression isn't shocking, it's confirmation. Tyrannus, and the name Sifo Dyas keeps turning up like a ghost. Someone used his authority to build an army in secret. The war ignites anyway, because Palpatine's machine doesn't need applause once it's rolling. Geonosis becomes the spark. The arena becomes the trap. The Jedi charge in. The clones arrive. The galaxy crosses the line. And in the middle of it, Anakin meets Dooku's blade. Here, the duel carries a different sting. Because Dooku isn't only fighting a gifted Padawan, he's fighting the boy the galaxy has started calling Destiny, and the son of the Jedi he cannot fully erase from his mind. "Your mother taught you control," Dooku says between strikes, "but she did not teach you what controlling costs are." Anakin surges forward, furious at hearing Shmi's name used like leverage. Obi-Wan goes down, and for a heartbeat, the next move could be a fall into pure rage. But Shmi's training lives where it counts. Not in speeches, in breath, in choice. Breathe. Name it. Choose. Anakin exhales. He steps instead of lunges. He commits to a clean line. Dooku still takes the arm. The price still lands. Not because Anakin is weak, but because Dooku understands the dark side's favorite lesson. Loss creates leverage, and the Sith always plan to use leverage later. Palpatine feels the timeline tightening. Shmi is closer to the truth. Kamino is no longer buried behind missing files and polite assumptions. Dooku is leaking in spite of himself. The Jedi are moving earlier than they should be able to. So Palpatine shifts tactics. He stops trying to win Anakin with praise and starts trying to corner him with intimacy. He invites Anakin privately, voice warm, office calm, like the kind of place where people forget they're being measured. "My boy, you've carried the Republic. The Jedi will never trust what you are. They'll always see you as a variable. I don't." Anakin doesn't chase the words. He listens to the intent behind them, the purchase they're trying to make, and then he feels it, not just metal under cloth, not just a hidden cylinder, but the unmistakable disturbance of a kyber-bound weapon sitting too still in the Force, like a predator holding its breath. His senses catch it, angled for speed. "You're armed," Anakin says. Palpatine's expression holds a fraction too long. Then the warmth drains away. "I wondered when you'd notice." Anakin doesn't reach for his hilt. He reaches for his comm link and triggers a temple emergency code Shmi and Jocasta insisted on years ago, a security protocol built for one exact nightmare, a senior threat in a sealed room. The moment the code goes live, responding masters' comm links begin encrypted hololog capture automatically, each device its own vault, each recording a separate proof that can't be erased by deleting one file. The door opens behind him. Mace Windu enters with Aegon Kolar, Saesee Tiin, and Kit Fisto. Four masters moving like they've been waiting for one clean moment to stop pretending. Windu's eyes go to Palpatine's sleeve, to the stillness in the Force, and the decision finishes itself. "Sith," Windu says. Palpatine doesn't deny it. He explodes into motion the way fast, precise, murderous. His blade flashes and the office becomes a storm. Kolar goes down, Tiin goes down. Fisto falls after a brutal exchange that leaves scorch marks on the walls and silence in the air where jokes used to live. Windu holds because Windu was built to stand in pressure and not break. Palpatine tries to poison Anakin mid-fight, the way he always does, throwing bait while he kills. Fear, isolation, greatness. He aims it at Anakin like a hook, but Anakin doesn't lock up. He doesn't let anger take the wheel. He stays present because his whole life was training for this, to recognize manipulation and refuse the comfort of being chosen by it. Lightning tears across the room. Windu catches it on his blade, bending it back with grim control. A second surge lashes toward Anakin, pain bright and sharp, and Anakin takes it without turning it into a decision. "You could be the greatest," Palpatine hisses, "if you stop serving them." Anakin's answer is quiet, steady, and final. "I'm not yours." And that's the pivot the Sith wasn't counting on. Windu disarms him in the chaos, and Anakin doesn't hesitate or freeze. He binds. Not a dramatic show, just raw pressure, pinning Palpatine long enough for reinforcements to crash through the threshold. Temple guards with portable ray shield emitters and binders designed to hold hostile Force users, not dependent on office systems, not dependent on one panicked switch. It isn't pretty. It's desperate and coordinated and real. Palpatine fights like a cornered animal, but for the first time, he's fighting multiple locks at once, not one hero in one room. And this time, the truth can't be buried. Too many copies, too many witnesses. The Sith is no longer a suspicion. He is evidence. Yoda arrives, eyes closing as if he's listening to the galaxy breathe. Lifted, the dark cloud has, difficult, What remains will be. The war doesn't end neatly, it frays. Without Sidious steering both sides, Separatist leadership splinters. Grievous grows reckless. Dooku loses the invisible advantage of a master controlling the Republic from its center. And Shmi gets the payoff of the one thing that made this timeline different. She knows Dooku's habits well enough to predict his next move, the way he will try to hold control even as the world tilts. Pride, precision, the belief that if he grips the wheel hard enough, disaster becomes manageable. When the net closes, Dooku tries to justify everything. Corruption demanded rebellion. The Republic deserved collapse. The Jedi were blind. Shmi listens like someone hearing a man argue with a past version of himself, and the grief in her isn't pity. It's recognition of what he could have been if he had chosen differently. You didn't want reform, Anakin says when it matters, not shouting, not pleading, just naming the truth. You wanted obedience. Dooku ignites his blade. The duel isn't a spectacle, it's a consequence, and when it ends the way tragedy does. Brilliant certainty finally paying its price, not with a speech, but with silence and a fallen blade. With Palpatine contained, the Jedi finally tear into the clone program without being steered away from it. The chips are confirmed. The Republic Medical Corps begins a phased removal campaign using Kaminoan data and Republic surgical teams in tandem, rotating units through safely, unit by unit, until the army stops being a switch waiting to be flipped. The contingency never fires, because the one voice built to trigger it is locked away, and because the Jedi moved before a single phrase could become a massacre. Obi-Wan still hunts Grievous, because some threats don't vanish when politics shift. The war ends where it always needed to end, with Grievous removed and the Separatist machine collapsing under its own fractures. After the fighting breaks, the Jedi Order has to face itself. Not because it lost, but because it came close enough to feel how fear and rigidity were warping it from the inside. The Council lifts its restrictions on Shmi without a speech. Windu tells her plainly, the restrictions are lifted, fully. Shmi looks at him, then at Anakin, older now, shaped by conflict, still human. About time. Anakin is offered a seat on the Council, not as a prophecy trophy, but as a necessary voice. Someone who stood near the darkest manipulation in the galaxy and stayed deliberate. His first request isn't rank, it's responsibility. He asks to mentor Grogu, the quiet youngling most people overlook, because the Order spent too long staring at loud fires and missing the embers that needed care. The Temple doesn't reinvent itself overnight, but it shifts toward honesty. Shmi pushes training toward a truth the old Order resisted. Emotions aren't a stain you hide. They're weight you learn to carry without becoming. Late one night, Shmi finds Jocasta Nu in the archives again. Slower now, eyes older, still guarding knowledge like it matters. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if the Council pushed you out? Shmi looks across endless shelves. I don't live in timelines that didn't happen. Jocasta nods once. The Order changes slowly. Shmi's gaze drifts to the temple windows where Coruscant's lights pretend to be stars. Then we keep changing it anyway. Somewhere in the training halls, Anakin moves through a form with controlled precision. Teacher now, not weapon. Grogu watches from the edge of the mat, head tilted, listening with that quiet focus the Force loves. The future is still uncertain. It always is. In this timeline, Anakin still feels fear. The difference is, he was taught to name it out loud before it could disguise itself as destiny. And because of that, the future is no longer doomed by a smiling secret at the center of the Republic, waiting for the right moment to strike. What if Shmi Skywalker was a Jedi when the Force created Anakin? In this version of the story, the miracle doesn't become a scandal. It becomes pressure, the kind that forces the Order to confront its fear before that fear breaks the galaxy. Balance doesn't arrive like a headline. It arrives like a practice, kept alive by a mother who refused to let her son become a symbol, and a son who learned early that power without inner control is just another kind of darkness. If you want more Star Wars alternate paths like this, subscribe, and tell me the next what if you want to see. May the Force be with you.